Section 11.1, we're going to look at areas of triangles and parallelograms, probably some things that you're very familiar with. So let's just take a look at the area of any rectangle. You should already know this formula, but the area is equal to the base times the height. Remember, it's the number of square units that fit inside. So our units will always be units squared. A parallelogram, if we take this piece of the triangle and cut it off and move it over, we basically still now just have a parallelogram with base and a height. Remember, for both of these, our height has to be perpendicular to the base. So for parallelogram and rectangle, it's the same. Area equals 1/2 the base times, sorry, not 1/2, I got ahead of myself. The area is equal to the base times the height for both. I got ahead of myself for triangles. Because if you take this triangle right here and you duplicate it and you move it over, you basically have a parallelogram. So you have a base right here of your parallelogram. You still have a height right here. So really, this triangle that we want to find the area of is just half of a parallelogram. So that's why our area is 1/2 the base times the height. So here's kind of a summary of the three that we talked about: rectangle and parallelogram, triangle, and then a square is just really the same, base times the height. It's just that the base and the height are the same. And so our base times our height becomes side times side. And that's where we get side squared. And it really doesn't matter which one you use. It's just easier when you're working backwards if you're given the area to use the side squared formula. So these should be pretty familiar to you. We're not going to do them all, okay? But let's see if we can find some of these area of the shaded figures. Now this is an interesting one right here when we look at this triangle, because our base, some students get confused. This is our base right here. So our base, if we use our formula, base times the height, 1/2, our base is 13. Our height has to be perpendicular to the base, so in this case our height is drawn outside the triangle. That's our height. So we have 1/2 times 13 times 7, which gives you an area of 45.5 units squared. Okay, the other two should be pretty simple, so go ahead and just solve those on your own and then check back to the notes. Okay, so now we have some other ones. Again, I'm not going to do all of these, but if we look at the area of this triangle, we have 1/2 the base times the height. Here, our base of our triangle is all of this. So our base is 36. And our height is this right here. That's our height. We don't know our height, okay? But we can get our height right there by using the Pythagorean theorem. So our height squared plus 6 squared is equal to our hypotenuse squared. So our height squared is equal to 64. So our height is 8. So we can put that in there as 8. And so now we multiply all those together, and that gives us 144 units squared. So I'll let you try the next one, because you are just doing the area of a rectangle, and it'll be similar to the strategy that we did here. Okay, so now again, we have some combined areas. So in other words, this particular shape over here is finding the area of the square and adding it with the triangles, and they're all the same, so times 4. So let's go ahead and calculate the area of the shaded figure. So the area of the square, you can see all the sides are marked the same right here. So the area of the square is 4 times 4, or 16. The area of one of the triangles, the base of the triangle is 4, so the area of the one of the triangle is 1/2 our base, which is 4, times our height, which is 2 square root of 3. And then we have to multiply that by 4. So we have 16 plus, and then we have 1/2 times 2. If you notice this, the 1/2 and the 2 can just cancel out. So we get 16 square root of 3. And you could get a decimal for that, or you could just leave your answer like this. Most of you are probably going to want to get a decimal. So 16 times the square root of 3 gives us 27.71 approximately. So now to find the combined area, we add those together, which gives us an area of approximately 43.71 units squared. Because remember that 16 square root of 3 ended up to be about 27.71. Okay, let's continue on. Find the area of the shaded regions here. Again, I will do one of these, and you can do the other one. I am actually going to do this one right here. Now, some people get confused, but what you really have is a trapezoid, and you could use that information. But since we haven't come to those formulas yet this year, you may have done it in previous courses, but it's not a formula that everybody recognizes. But I can certainly still find the area of the parallelogram and then add it with the area of that triangle. So the area of the parallelogram, we have base times the height of the parallelogram, usually inside, but this time not. So the area of that is 16 times 9. The area of the triangle, we have, this is the base of the triangle, and the height right here is the same as this height right here. So the area of the triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So when I multiply all these together, so we get 16 times 9, that's 144. Add that with 1/2 of 63. So 0.5 times 63, 7 times 9, 63. We get 31.5. We add it together, and that gives us a approximate area of 175.5 feet squared. Remember, area is always units squared, and I don't remember, did I make sure I did that? Yeah, it looks like I have been. So make sure you're including units. Okay, so now we have find the area of this shaded region, and take a look at that list right here and see if you can set this up. See if you can figure out what we're going to be finding the areas of. How are we going to find it? What you're going to have to do is you're going to find the area of the rectangle, but this time you're not going to add another area. You're going to subtract the area of the triangle. So go ahead and see if you can, because that's the non-shaded region, that will give you the shaded right here. So go ahead and see if you can calculate that, and then check back to the notes to see if you've done them correctly. We're going to move on to working backwards for some of these. So we're going to find the value of x. We're going to find a missing value if we're given the area. So the area of this triangle is 399 inches squared. So I always start by writing out my formula. Area equals 1/2 the base times the height. Now I'm going to put in the area. I don't know my base, that's my x. I do know my height, and that's 21. So 399 equals 10.5 x. Now I just take 399 divided by 10.5. So my x, or my base, is 38 units. or in this case, inches. Okay, so now you see if you can do the same thing with with the second problem, and then again check back to the notes to see if you've done it correctly. This is the same kind of thing, although we are not given a picture. So let's see what we have. It says in a right triangle, the hypotenuse is 19 inches. So there's my right triangle. My hypotenuse is 19 inches. One of the legs is 8 inches. Now it says find the perimeter and the area of the triangle. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to find this other side right here. I'll just call it X. Well, first of all, I can find that other side using the Pythagorean theorem. So x squared plus 8 squared equals 19 squared. So x squared equals 287, and then x is approximately equal to 17.23. I'm just double checking whether that's 287 or 97. 19 squared minus 8 squared gives us 297. I was right the first time. Okay, so now I have that. So now I should easily be able to find the perimeter. So the perimeter is equal to all the sides added up. So 8 plus 19 plus 17.23 gives me a perimeter equals 44.23 inches. Area is 1/2 the base, which is 8, times the height, which is 17.23. So my area is 68.93 meters, or inches, excuse me. Inches squared. So notice perimeter is inches, area is inches squared. So now let's get into something maybe a little bit more challenging. It says the area of a triangle is 225 units squared. The base of the triangle is twice the height. Find the base and the height. So here's my triangle. I know the area is equal to 225 units squared. I know that the base of the triangle is 2 times the height. So if this is the height, then the base is equal to 2 times the height. So now, when I find the area, 1/2 the base times the height, 225 is equal to my base, which is 2h, times my height, which is h. So now I get 225 is equal to 2h squared. Divide each side by 2. And don't forget your 1/2 times 2h. And then what happens here is the 1/2 and the 2, again, cancel out. So 1/2 times 2, so we just get h squared equals 225. So h, my height, is 15. So that means my base is twice 15, or 30. Okay, so this is our last question. It says, given the area, find the side length and perimeter of the square. I'd like you to try that one on your own. I would really use the formula that the area of a square is the side squared. That will help you on this one.